What happens when a man with a microphone tries to shame a woman with proof? Senator Cy Booker believed that publicly humiliating Pam Bondi on live television would win him applause and admiration. He labeled her a mask, a fraud, a disgrace to the system. But what he ignited instead was a war he wasn't ready for, because Bondi came armed with facts sharp enough to cut through rhetoric. The man who thought he could bury her had already started digging his own political grave. This began as just another cable news segment flickering across living rooms during dinner with a banner, "Reading Pam Bondi Controversy or Courage." The hosts leaned forward, cards in hand, faces of neutrality. But Booker didn't come for polite conversation. Dressed in a sharp charcoal suit, his calm demeanor under the harsh CNN lights was a warning missed by all. When asked about Bondi's defense of the president's executive order, he responded with a cold smile and unleashed a barrage, declaring she wasn't a symbol of justice, but the polished face of institutional decay. His words sliced through the studio, describing her as a PR stunt shielding corruption behind perfect teeth. He accused her of accepting money from Trump's charity and failing to investigate Trump University, calling it complicity rather than leadership. The studio grew uneasy as Booker pressed on, asserting that legal credentials do not equal moral clarity. With a final piercing stare into the camera, he said America didn't need another polished apologist, but someone who tells the truth, even when it's ugly. Social media exploded instantly, half praising him, half condemning his words as misogynistic and reckless. But amid the storm, one thing stood out: Pam Bondi's silence. No tweets, no press release, just complete and unsettling stillness, which rattled Washington even more than Booker's tirade. In a city where silence often means either guilt or calculation, Capitol Hill buzzed with whispers. Behind the closed door of her Pennsylvania Avenue office, Bondi wasn't hiding. She was calculating. She didn't rush to defend herself. Instead, she called her research analyst Ely, requesting a review of nonprofit organizations linked to grants in Newark, New Jersey, and providing a crucial date. By noon, Ely identified suspicious funding patterns tied to Booker's campaign, with shell transfers and donor bundling that didn't align with transparency standards. Bondi quietly began building her case, sliding documents into a folder labeled receipts. Her communication director suggested a response, but Bondi refused, stating she wouldn't match volume. She'd bury him in truth. As Booker basked in prime-time applause, Bondi plotted her return. The next day at 4 p.m., every camera turned to the White House briefing room. Pam Bondi entered alone, holding a manila folder, her navy blazer crisp, her expression unreadable. She approached the podium, adjusted the microphone, and began. She wasn't there to rebut insults, but to reveal truths. Opening the folder, she exposed a $92,000 trail of taxpayer dollars funneled through federal contracts to shell organizations tied to Booker's campaign donors. The room stilled as she presented evidence, documents, color-coded annotations, audit failures, and network maps showing how campaign donations have been bundled and laundered through nonprofits. She made it clear this wasn't about one misstep, but a system that launders influence behind the mask of public service. Her voice was steady, her message precise. She didn't defend herself. She dismantled an accusation with surgical precision. While Booker had shouted into cameras, Pam Bondi had prepared something far more dangerous than a comeback. She had prepared the truth. The system Senator Booker attacked me for while standing on top of it was the very same structure that had protected him until now. And when one reporter finally broke the tense silence by asking if she was alleging criminal misconduct, Pam Bondi responded without hesitation, saying she wasn't alleging anything, she was simply showing facts from public records, and that all she had done was follow the money, which Senator Booker never thought anyone would. Then, flipping another page, she pointed to a contract from October 2019 transferring $3,800,000 to the Hope Bridge Alliance, and within 10 days that same group had purchased $250,000 in campaign ad space, promoting integrity and community values, all featuring Booker's face, and then her voice dipped into something darker, more surgical, as she said he had called her a mask over a broken system, but he hadn't exposed a flaw, he had exposed his own reflection. She wasn't wearing a mask, she was pulling his off. He painted her as a made-up villain in a courtroom drama, But the reality was simpler and sadder. While she had been prosecuting real corruption, Booker had been hosting fundraisers with it. While she was fighting for victims who couldn't afford a voice, he was laundering their hope through nonprofit invoices and calling it justice reform. She didn't build the system, but she studied it, dismantled it, and beneath every layer she found his signature on contracts, on wire transfers, on every single shell foundation he claimed was for the people, but was actually operated for himself, and the room was still not a single interruption or sound, as she declared she hadn't come to defend herself, because she owed no defense to men who hide behind microphones and martyrdom, but rather she had come to hold up a mirror, and while he could hurl insults, facts would never flinch, and the difference between them was that she didn't need to yell for the truth to matter. She brought receipts, and as were overdue, and then she closed the fold with a snap that cracked like a gavel, saying this wasn't vengeance, this was verification, and now this was accountability. And then she walked away from the podium with no bows, no dramatics, just a long, echoing silence in her wake. And she didn't need applause because across every newsroom, kitchen, TV, soldiers, phone, and teacher's break room, the evidence had already started to speak, and the internet didn't erupt the way Booker had hoped, because within 20 minutes her speech flooded every platform. But it wasn't pushed by pundits or political accounts. This time, it was shared by teachers, nurses, veterans, single moms, and truckers, not for mockery, but because they believed her, and the phrase Pam brought receipts began trending within the hour with headlines like Booker exposed and $92, 000 questions, and memes capturing her folder snap moment with captions like when the facts hit harder than the insults in YouTube videos titled Pam Bondi ended Cory Booker's career in 8 minutes, crossing 2 million views before nightfall, and TikTok creators lip-syncing her words with solemn nods, while even critics who had dismissed her began to reevaluate, and inside Booker's camp, confidence gave way to panic as his team started unlisting that morning's viral clips, especially the moment he called her the polished face of a rotten institution, and campaign staffers' message about scrubbing old posts with comments now filled with brutal questions about Hope Bridge and contract signatures, and editorial boards shifted into investigative gear, one airing a special titled Pam Bondi's Bombshell, and another bringing in a forensic auditor to explain how shell nonprofits obscure accountability, and even late-night hosts who'd regularly mocked her pause their jokes, with one saying we were ready to laugh tonight. But Pam Bondi didn't bring punchlines, she brought paperwork. And inside Booker's HQ chaos reigned, phones ringing, tweets vanishing, briefings rewritten, aides whispering if they even had a counterfile, and former staffers anonymously messaging reporters saying this wasn't political fallout, it was public betrayal. That Pam hadn't attacked his reputation she had. Followed his receipts, and online sentiment kept shifting as more people demanded documents over talking points, and even longtime Booker supporters began questioning him, like one youth organizer in Newark posting, "I believe in Cory, but second chances require first accountability." While Pam said nothing at all, no tweets, no interviews, just the same eerie calm, and by 2:41 a.m. Booker stood in his hotel suite, shirt still, wrinkled sleeves rolled up, watching headlines cycle endlessly as an aide handed Emma posted with a private number and said she's not taking media calls. But we found this, and Booker stared at it, then called. And after 3 rings, a voice answered. This is Pam, her tone clipped dry, awake, but unbothered, as if she had expected the call, and Booker hesitated before speaking her name, awkward on his lips, saying he wasn't calling for a show, just something human to human, and then pausing again as the silence stretched unbroken on the other end, and he added that he didn't know what the hell that was today, but it felt personal, and the weight of her silence once again said more than any headline ever could. IT wasn't personal, Senator. It was factual. Booker exhaled sharply and said, "You know what happens when you paint someone as corrupt on live television. You don't just destroy a headline, you ruin reputations, you erase years of work, years of service." But then came a pause, and Pam replied, "You mean the way you called me a fraud in lipstick?" And the air went still. Booker hesitated, trying to recover, saying that wasn't fair. He was reacting to years of watching her cozy up to a man. But Pam cut in with no rise in tone and no emotion, only steel, reminding him that he had called her a mask on a rotten institution. And she simply showed the receipts, and now suddenly it was too much. And then he snapped, asking if she really thought what she did today was noble, accusing her of burying him under documents most Americans wouldn't understand, and claimed she had come after his reputation because he called out her hypocrisy. But Pam calmly answered, "No, Senator, I didn't come after your reputation. I came after your paperwork." Because while you gave speeches about integrity, your name sat atop contracts that funneled millions through hollow nonprofits. And as he paced the room, his voice rose with frustration, declaring it was politics, and questioning whether she really thought she was cleaner than anyone else just because she spoke softly and held folders, but she answered no. I don't think I'm perfect, but I also didn't accuse someone of being morally bankrupt while hiding $92,000 in skeletons behind me. And then there was silence thick enough to shatter before Booker asked quietly why now, why not go public months ago? Why wait until he made a mistake and accused her of ambushing him? But Pam corrected him, saying she didn't wait. She watched, she gave him the benefit of the doubt, and he was the one who stood on national television